Good morning, everyone. Today is, what is today anyway?
The 21st.
October 21st, Monday. I knew that. Monday, October 21st, 11 a.m. Eastern. This is the periodic, what seems to be pretty monthly, this every 6 weeks call of the FFLGuard Cognigente. I have my whole team of people here. Let's see, I have brother Brian down there in Florida, alive after all the hurricanes came rolling through, although Miss Avis, who is not on screen, got the worst of the hurricanes, much worse than Florida over there in South Carolina. We're sad we don't get to see you today, Avis, but we're glad that you at least have power.
If you want to go away.
Hello?
Go in my office and use the computer.
Okay.
Wow, what's going on?
Some
Besides-
reason. Yeah, we
Somebody
got
got voice tuned. Singing Ariana Grande.
it sounded like Gina yelling at one of her employees.
That was very exciting.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, Avis, we're glad that you have power and you're back with us among the living. I see Michael Bouchard coming to us from his bunker down there. Alexis Tunnell, nice, always nice to have you. You're always so well dressed too. I'm in my sweatshirt and my hat, and you're always looking so sharp. I appreciate that about you. Hank out there in Kentucky saying how you doing, bringing us all the things business has to offer. We got a lot to talk about because I'm surprised about what's going on out there. And Trent, I see, is with us from Kansas City, our favorite insurance dude. Michael Franzak is on a river cruise somewhere between, I don't know, France and Germany right now. So he won't be joining us, but this is the team we have today. And let's move forward. In the last month since we've spoken, I know the one thing on my my hit list was that we've won 3 or 4 different hearings.
Stay out here for a little bit if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'll stay out here. I'll stay out here all day, baby. Who is that, Brian?
It's Apon USA.
How does she keep... Gina, stop unmuting your camera, will you? So we've won 3 or 4 different hearings, a couple of them down Alexis's way in Texas, one in Seattle, and one in other parts. I can't, Kansas City maybe.
Rob, how do I make this louder, the audio?
You turn up the volume. Just turn it up.
Chris, I have some great stats later for, what we've been seeing and all of that.
Oh, good.
Your results and all.
So you want to jump right into that since that's what's on my mind?
Yeah, absolutely. So we took a look and crunched the numbers regarding, kind of where things are and where they've been. What's really interesting is since summer of 2021, we have had more than one revocation hearing per month, right? So more than one per month client is reaching out, new client, typically saying, we've got a notice of revocation. That's really significant. That is unprecedented before in our history. The other thing I would say as well is that, Chris and team have an incredible success rate, close to 90%. In the cases that have been settled. The interesting thing that I would say is that of all the cases, the advice in 3 instances was to surrender the license, right? And I'll be fair with everyone. Sometimes clients have made such huge missteps when they come to us that does happen. And the recommendation is, you need to exit gracefully, right? And surrender in lieu of revocation. There were 3 instances of that. And then there were 2 licenses revoked, both of which were actually folks that I counted them, but they decided not to have us represent them. So the 2 that reached out to us and that we didn't represent, those two were ultimately revoked. So again, they just reached out, we had a conversation, and they chose to go another way. But I think that speaks volumes about really what's going on at the ATF and what you can expect. The other interesting data point is that the time from the report of violation to the notice of revocation being issued has gotten significantly smaller, right? So it used to be that it would take sometimes even up to a year to find out that after your ROV was issued, out of the blue, you'd get a notice of revocation. Right now, current with statistics this year, it's about 4 months. So you get your notice of revocation, and then typically by 4 months, you have your, you get your report of violations and then a notice of revocation about 4 months later. But the thing that's real important to hear is that it is that long. Right? You're not in the clear just because you have your notice of revocation and they're not reaching out. So again, that's why it is so important that you send us those reports of violation, because from that, we know what to expect and we can get you ready. Right?
You had a slight misspeak there. You said from the time you get your notice of revocation, and what you meant
No.
report of violation.
Report of violation. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, you get the report of violations, you don't know what's coming next. But it's good to hear that the time span has gone down. It's good to hear that we still have a unblemished record. And I think to be clear with your statistics there, anybody who was already an FFLGuard client before they got a notice of revocation continues to operate seamlessly. It was the only time we ever faced anybody that we said you should probably surrender it is, I think, if they came in hot and said, we don't know you, Chris, but we heard you're good and help us. So yeah, at the end of the day, I knew that we have a pretty good win ratio. And I know that we've done, if you say we've done maybe 75 since 2021, one or two a month. I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot going on, and they haven't seemed to slow down. So that's important for everybody to know. However, there is a new process in place that they just put into place a month or two ago, where they will offer, they being ATF, will offer you, the licensee, an opportunity to circumvent a notice of revocation if you could provide them with certain information pursuant to a letter request of theirs. So I guess what had happened is that ATF's budget got slashed considerably, and they don't have the money to do a lot of these hearings anymore. And so they're trying to be more expeditious about who they select for revocations, even though they have certain hot points that if they get hit, they're supposed to be bringing them in per the DOJ. And there's a whole new process now where the ATF could issue you a letter request that says we were going to issue you a notice of revocation, but if you can provide us with this information or that information, that we may not issue it. So they're giving like one more little mini step in there to thwart getting to a revocation hearing. So don't be surprised if you get a letter that asks you for more information. If you do, please contact me immediately and I will handle that for you, obviously. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. They're trying to save money, and it's clear to them that you probably aren't going to lose your license, so why should we go through the process? So new process in place. Thank you for that information, Alexis. And at the same time, I am happy to hand the floor to you if you have other information you'd like to share with everyone before I go on to everyone.
Sure. Yeah, so a couple things, some trends we've been noticing. Definitely, guys, I can't say it enough. Know your software, audit your software, be sure your software is performing as you expect. Especially things that are sort of on autopilot for a lot of us, like multiple sales reporting. Guys, those violations add up. They do put your license ultimately in danger of ATF action. And if your software isn't counting that correctly, isn't considering holidays and weekends, things like that, and you miss those, it's a violation. Even if you get them in later, it's still a violation. We have gotten reports of software that just completely did it wrong. I understand a client reached out and there was a fix, but at the same time, it's still your responsibility. You'll still get violations for it, even if it was a software issue. So please don't forget, software isn't regulated. Again, software providers can program that to happen however they'd like. I know the team here at FFLGuard has vetted the process for Fastbound. I can't tell you how anybody else's works. So again, you're more than welcome to reach out, but we don't know how every bit of software out there works. We know a lot of it, but not all of it. So definitely reach out to your software provider when you're looking for specific answers to those questions, or maybe why something didn't happen. And the other thing, two more things to touch on. How you file your 4473s is regulated, and they do have to be filed in one of those three ways: alphabetical, chronological by disposition date or signature date in B, if the disposition did not occur, or by your unique serial number, right? Of course, the only way we recommend is chronological. Yeah, but they do have to be filed. So if ATF comes in and you've got a stack of 6 months of 4473s because you were going to review them, that's a violation that they're not filed. So again, yes, they are required to be filed, and they must be filed in one of three ways. Also, go ahead.
So I was gonna say, and I just know this because we've been doing this for 150 years, but why is chronological the better methodology of filing? Do you know? Does anyone know? Brian, best IOI in the country?
Well, they're going to ask you for a time period of your records, so it's easiest to pull them out and keep them in chron order. So that then they ask for a time period, you just go, here you go. If you're
Let me throw my hat in the ring on that one, because my shop, we did it by log number. And I want to preface this was a pen and paper, not computerized log system. So this is for people doing physical paper 4473s. And the reason why we started chronologically and moved to ordering them by log number was because it was very easy to spot if there was a missing piece of paperwork. Hey, here's number 1, number 2, number 3, oh, wait a minute, where's number 4? By doing it by date, you don't know where the mess up happened or when the mess up happened, because now you got to go through literally every piece of paperwork to try and find, going by date, where a missing log number was logged out, because it's you don't know because you're missing the paperwork. And so for us, we found it much better for in-house accountability to make sure we had all our ducks in a row by doing it by log number, because it jumped out at you very clearly in your paperwork audit. Hey, why is number 5 missing? Because it's not here, kind of deal. So I'm just going to throw that as to, in my years of running my shop, we found for paper only, not computer, paper only log systems, that doing it by log number was the more efficient way for us to find problems.
By nature, doing it that way, though, you're also doing it chronologically too, because you're doing it day by day, adding the numbers transaction by transaction. So even though you're filing by log number, right, and you're maintaining that numbering, by nature of doing that way, it is in transactional order, right, and thus in chronological order. So yeah.
No, that would have been log number, as in when the gun got put into the bound book. So whatever number.
Oh, I apologize.
Assigned. Yeah, whatever number it was assigned when it got put into the bound book.
There you go. There you go.
At the end of the day, our recommendation is chronological.
Yeah.
Hank, we've loved having you on these calls, and we appreciate everything you've done for us in the past, and we'll be speaking to you again another time in the future. Thank you.
Just be quiet, Hank.
No, at the end of the day, chronological is the way to go in our minds. Listen, we give you best practices, what we think is best, and that's what we prefer, because we have seen it where, because of those missing TTSN numbers, it creates the Pandora's box being opened into, oh, well, let's keep looking for this reason and keep going. And the same with alphabetical or any other non-chronological fashion. So to be safe, so we're all on the same page, if you want to do the way Uncle Chris likes it, it is chronological.
Yep.
And
you only staple.
Uncle Brian likes that better too when he's there.
Yeah, and only staple what it has to be stapled to the form. Everything else filed separately.
That's
right?
great. What has to be stapled to a form? Anybody? Best IOI in the country? Anybody?
Continuation sheet, multiple cell report, or whatever the documentation for the non-resident alien is in 27D. And that's because it specifically says it on the form.
That's it,
Is it
folks.
my final exam day?
Yeah, you're doing
Yeah.
good. I'm proud of you.
Oh, I am. I'm the best. I mean, what do you know?
right.
Very- So, okay. But again, very important. We get people that will say, oh, well, we took their driver's license, so we just attached driver's license to it.
No.
Oh, we
Right.
took-
No, because then the IOI looks at the driver's license and goes, oh, you fucked that one up because that's not what that says, right?
report out that Nix gave to us. Yeah, it's great until the IOI sees that you put the wrong NTN number on your form.
Right. Right.
Great.
So
Yeah.
always keep all that stuff in a separate side file. So if you ever need to refer to it, you can. A buddy file, a business file, whatever you want to call it. People call it different things, but not attached. The only thing that you should really be attaching is the non-immigrant alien stuff.
Yep.
Okay. I'm sorry, Alexis. You got me all.
No, absolutely. It's awesome. Those are all the things. The last thing I want to touch on is that obviously the holiday season is here, right? Hopefully those customers are already coming in, making those gift, purchases and such. But a couple things to remember. You need to talk to your staff about if you allow gift purchases or not and how to handle that, right? If you do allow them, if you don't allow them, we recommend that you do not allow gift purchases of firearms. But if you do, be sure your whole team is on the same page. The other thing as well is if you're bringing in new staff, your standards can't be lowered, right? If you need staff there to help you, if you're not training them and having them to the same standards as every other firearm counter employee, then they should work somewhere else in the store. I've seen that over and over where, help is brought in during the busy times of the year and they just don't know what they don't know. It's nothing intentional, but you end up in a big bind with that. And the last thing too, and I know Hank can speak to this, but have a plan, right? It is the holiday season. Now is the time to get yourself in the black, to earn that business and to really get those rewards from your customers. And again, you got to have a plan and you can't drop the compliance ball while you're doing it. So that's all I got, Chris.
Thank you, Alexis. And since we have heard from Mr. Hank and you have segued nicely into Mr. Hank, why don't we turn to Mr. Hank and say, why isn't the world going crazy buying guns right now for fear that the Democrats are going to win? Why is that not happening?
That's a great question. Let me just finish up on Alexis's comment there. With gift cards, if you're choosing to use gift cards as the way to gift things in your shop, I want to add to that. Do some training with your team on making sure everyone knows how to issue gift cards properly and document all that kind of stuff. Because I can't tell you how many times I see shops. It's like all of a sudden one day in the holiday season, the switch flips and all of a sudden everyone's buying gift cards and your staff is like, I don't remember how to issue gift cards, because the other 9 months out of the year, you might do one gift card a month or something along those lines. So uptrain your staff on how to do that efficiently. But getting back to the market conditions, yeah, everything was trending nice in September, and now October has just fallen real flat. And I think it's this big indecision inhale that consumers are having right now, of not knowing which way the elections are going to roll, and they're just kind of like, do I need to go buy something or not? Or do I not need to go buy something right now? And I think there's a lot of indecision because the race is at least the way the media is portraying it, very tight right now. And people are just in that indecision mode of, do I need to buy something? I think there's not a ton of saber rattling going on out there from those political sides, to not stir up, the what could be after the first week in November type situation. But yeah, no, markets fallen a bit flat compared to September. September was doing good, but then October has really kind of fallen off of a ledge a little bit on sales volume from that perspective. Margins are up, which is a consolation prize, I guess, on that. And shotguns are doing okay. So for those of you who want to try and spark some business, it seems like the shotgun market is kind of bucking the trend a little bit from that perspective. But as I've been talking with some of my clients out there. There's a ton of rebates out there right now, and I see a lot of shops not making customers aware of it, not illustrating it to their customers. I mean, there's some substantial rebates in some manufacturers. Bretta's got some significant ones. SIG's got some big ones going on out there. You know, and make it apparent to your customers. And I don't mean just like putting the little counter stand out there to try and let them know. I mean, like literally put little, you know, cards in front of product illustrating like what your final price would be after all the rebates and discounts and things along those lines. You got to do the math. You got to do the math for the customer. Unfortunately, people won't do the math themselves when they're in the retail store. But I just say this when I look at how much the market's sort of down right now compared to last year. If things go, you know, the Harris route, we may see a significant equitable bump right afterwards from people panic buying and going, oh my gosh, the sky is falling kind of situation. So, you know, it may be we see a compensation of that in the month of November that makes things a little bit better from that perspective. But yeah, you got to go chase customers right now. You can't just sit back on your heels and expect people to show up. You got to get out in front of things, market to them, have the right products in your shop, you know, have the staff there to manage it when the folks do show up. Yeah, it's tight out there right now.
Well, I personally was very relieved to hear that Kamala owns a clock. So
Yeah.
that made me rest easier at night. So, you know, Hank, because I know you were concerned.
Yes. Yes. In fact, the fact that they were issued to all, you know, all of the people in her department back when she was working in California. So
way back when. I wonder if they were on the roster. I guess they have had to be on the roster, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, Ellie can step outside of that too in California.
Oh, that's true. Very true. Okay, so thank you for that. And without further ado, I see Mr. Mike. Mike, I don't remember whether in our last call or not you had just visited ATF or not for the 9/11 ceremonies. I don't remember when the last time you were there was, but what's going on over there that we need to know about? Anything?
Yeah, I was there last month and had a good meeting with the director and the executive staff. Also had a chance to address all the special agents in charge on another matter. So I'm president of the ATF Association and Foundation. So it gives me good access to all the executives in ATF. So we had good discussion. He didn't ask for any feedback on what the industry's doing, but again, they're struggling with the budget cuts, trying to make do. You know, I know when I was there, we went through the same budget cuts, and you know, it's cyclical. It'll come back someday, but you know, they're just trying to prioritize things and keep business moving, keep the morale up with the employees. Other than that, the firearm thefts through burglaries are still pretty constant. So just encourage you, the ones we see, they know exactly where to go when they break into the store. They're in there in a few minutes and gone. So they've obviously staked out the store. So just it coming busy time of the year, it's a good time to remind your employees, be very mindful of the ruses that some of these criminals will do, whether to steal a gun while you're open or to start scoping out your place to come in after hours. If you do have CCTV, it's good to, you just see any of the suspicious activity, take a look at the cameras when those things occurred, let the police know ahead of time. Now that before the busy time, I also encourage you that you have an operations plan. Should a robbery occur, if you have employees who are carrying firearms, that they all understand what the use of force policy is. Again, they can't use force just to protect property. It's got to be to save their life or the life of another. Also, you should encourage them, should something happen, if you can get to positions where you don't have crossfires, or remind them if you have customers in the store, that's not the time to get involved in a shootout unless the bad guys are shooting at you guys. So all these things are good to put in your employee handbook. I think we still have one use of force policy that we'd ask that we've maintained in the library, that your employees sign that, at least look at it annually and acknowledge it. That could save you a lot of insurance problems later on down the road. pending any questions, that's all I've got.
That, and by the way, that's the perfect segue. Insurance problem, Trent. I mean, I couldn't have scripted that any better. You were
That
at
was
NA.
perfect.
I know it was. It was like Mike planned that. You were at NASGW because that's in your home hood. Last couple of weeks, saw brother Brian there. What's going on in the world of the insured?
That's right. It was great catching up with Brian last week. Honestly, the big thing in insurance right now is just property insurance mostly. I think most of our general liability markets are very stabilized. That's kind of surprising with the assault on the PLCAA, but believe it or not, we've got several competitive markets there that aren't excluding the Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act scenarios. So, but with property, you see it. I mean, we see hurricanes, we see wildfires, we see lawlessness. I think lawlessness is about the biggest unreported issue that we have out there. But I think I mentioned this last time. One of our carriers has a mandatory 60%. That's 60% rate increase, and we're fighting that. We're getting creative. We're making sure every possible carrier is quoted. Most of them, as we all know, there's hundreds of insurance companies in the United States until you say the word firearms or ammunition, and then all of a sudden there's about 25 at different capacities. So carving out stock is kind of a big thing for people with large inventories. We're constantly working on new insurance programs, whether it's our program or someone else's. This industry is stronger when we have multiple carriers competing for business, and that's what we need. We need multiple carriers, and we have a handful now, but need a couple more, especially in the property world. So that's what's going on here.
And I appreciate your input. And of course, we tell everyone if they have insurance related questions or problems or concerns, they should reach out to us and we will direct them to you or reach out to you directly. You've been a great resource for us and I appreciate you joining our calls.
Thank you.
Hey, Chris, let me throw one thing in quick, getting back to Mr. Bouchard's comment on theft and all that. For those, it's, sweeping across the country right now. It's coat season. Have that policy, no coats on counters. It's a super common theft issue where the customer will put a product on the counter, then lay their coat over top of it, and then steal the product with the coat. So just be mindful of that and train your staff on not allowing coats on counters.
Brian and Avis, client relations representatives for our call. What's going on?
Just want to make sure everybody is getting into, has seen, is using the new clients only website. Appears to be working well. We are still, going through little bumps in the road here and there on our end and taking them down as we can. And we're still cleaning up the library and trying to get things perfect, but everything from the user side should be working well. So if anybody has not logged in yet, please do so. And if you have any questions on it, please let us know. We have little video clips and Avis and I are around. Like you said, I was at an ASGW last week, got to catch up with a couple people. It was good seeing them, but overall, everybody's just kind of slow right now. Everybody's just kind of in limbo, waiting to see what happens in a couple weeks. So, I have one more trip left this year out to Utah in a couple weeks. Alexis is going to be going to visit someone there in her home state of Texas. We're, available to come around, do site visits, dives. It's
And that reminds me.
Interesting year. Yeah.
That reminds me. And we spoke about this. We, the FFLGuard Brain Trust, spoke about this during the week. But if you are a client on this call, and you have seen my smiling face in person within the last year, that means that you were in trouble. If you have seen my smiling face in person in the last year, you should probably, well, based on statistics, we know I won your hearing. Hooray. You should be following up with brother Brian and saying, you should come in, Brian, and help us do one last inspection because the recall inspection is coming. if you had a hearing and you were successful, as we know is the case, they will come in within a year to see that you haven't done the same thing wrong again. And if you have, you will be going back to a hearing. And if we do, I will tell you that will be a lot more difficult for me, not impossible, but a lot more difficult than the initial one. So my suggestion to you is we've invested all this time and money into your operation to keep business continuity. Let's not fall asleep now just because we had a success at the hearing. Please contact Brian and arrange for him to swing by and do a pre-inspection inspection before they come back, because they will come back. That is one thing I will tell you has never failed. There is always a recall inspection. And until that recall inspection, a little red flag stays up next to your name in the system. You're not going to be able to do a whole lot of stuff. Although I have seen some things slip through the cracks. But to be fair, usually until that recall inspection is done, you are still on the radar. And my suggestion to you is let's not fall asleep at the switch now. Call Brian, let's get him out there, and let's let him eyeball the place before ATF comes back.
Yeah.
Okay. That being said, I believe that Avis, I know you are on, you have the camera off because you are suffering with some allergy related symptoms and your children ridiculed you.
Yes, they did.
Yes, that's what boys do. That's what men do.
Right.
But that being said, unless you have anything to add, do you have a date for us to reconvene next month after the election?
After the election on 11/18, we will have our next call, and that way we can discuss what's happening in the holidays and what to do about who's the next president.
Okay. And in the meantime, one thing that I never say to everybody on the call, we usually have the same, 75 folks joining us, and then we will get maybe another 50, I'd say, reviewing the videos when they get mounted to YouTube. If you have questions that you want to put to the masses and not to Chris and or FFLGuard, please feel free to send it on to us and we'll bring it up at any of our calls. We always need good topics for conversation. These things are supposed to be refreshers to remind you to do things. And a lot of times, like I saw Pat King from King Shooter Supply asking a question. I thought it was a great question on the chat earlier, and everyone's welcome to do that. Please, we're a community amongst ourselves, and we should be sharing information amongst ourselves. So with that being said, I will leave everyone here. 11:37. I wish you a happy Halloween, and I'll speak to you before Thanksgiving.